Promotion. We'll call it a pro. Yes, let them know. It's a
Update for everybody online. I just checked with the chairs. Their plan is to actually start at 10:30. So you got about 10 minutes to do whatever you need to do, and we'll get started in about those 10 minutes. Thank you, everyone.
Don't say anything mean.
Or mean it, one or the other. Oh,
Morning, good morning. There was a day. Oh, I did get extra. I've been trying not to. Okay, being 10:30 on Friday, May 12th, I'd like to call to order the Kane County Jobs Committee. Before we do. Okay, as we do roll call, I wanted to put it in record that Mr. Dougherty and Mr. Ford and Mr. Young have all asked to join remotely because of either work issues or health issues. And I have okayed that, as has the co-chair. So we will have a quorum in the room, so they should still be able to vote. Okay, call the roll.
Bates,
It's here.
Doherty,
Doherty here.
Ford,
Ford present.
Strathman, Young,
Young here.
Lewis,
Lewis here.
Allen.
Ellen present.
You have a quorum in the room.
Okay, thank you very much. I need a motion to approve the minutes from April 14th. Alan moves.
Doherty second.
Call the roll, please.
Bates,
Bates here. Yes.
Doherty,
Doherty, yes.
Ford,
Ford, yes.
Strathman,
Stratman, yes.
Young,
Young, yes.
Lewis,
Lewis, yes.
Allen,
Alan, aye.
approved.
Okay, next will be the Office of Community Reinvestment, and we actually have kind of, I think, an interesting presentation this morning because we've got a resolution. So Maria and Scott, if you'll take it away.
Yes, Maria is on the line and can present our financial report to you.
Thank you, Scott. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Happy Friday. Starting on page 3 of your packet, you will find the summarization of the reports within your packet. Page 4, you will only see the WIOA 22 grant versus seeing the 21 and 22, and that is because we have fully expended the WIOA 21 grant that expires on June 30th of this year. We have exceeded all of our benchmarks so far for the first year of this grant cycle, which is great. The state of Illinois, they track our progress in terms of our obligation benchmark, the 80%, and they'll usually let us know throughout the course of the year, you know, at this time period, you know, you should be at such and such percentage of your grant obligations. Through the March reporting, we should be tracking at 60%. And if you note in the middle section of your report that's titled Obligations, you will note that within our 3 funding streams, we have exceeded all of that. You know, we have exceeded that. So we are on target to hit that 80% benchmark requirement at the end of year 1 on June 30th. We continue to maintain the training percent, the 50% training benchmark. That is a requirement also where with the funds that we are allotted, we should be reporting 50% of that within the adult and dislocated worker funds to direct training for the participants. So we are continuing to meet and exceed that with the end of March being at 58%. While, you know, we are on target, we are tracking accordingly. That in essence doesn't mean we're off the hook. You know, we're still looking at things closely to ensure that we're not blindsided, that nothing unexpected comes up that could kind of cause things to shift. You also have some detailed information in here that notes out what we have spent on the job training and what we have reported for incumbent worker training projects. On the job training, we've only spent $15,000 for this grant, this program year so far, and that is because the previous projects were paid out of the previous grant, the We Owe a 21 grant. Page 5 of your packet is our trade grant report. We have until September 30th of 2023 to spend down the remaining allocation that we have received through that. Are there any questions?
No, go ahead. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we also, in addition to our financial reports, we also have one action item for your review this morning. And we did distribute that late afternoon, Wednesday afternoon, to you by email. I hope you all received that and had a chance to take a look at that. I think you all know, as Maria just indicated, we receive annual allocations of federal workforce development funding from the Department of Labor, and that comes to us through, as Maria indicated, the state of Illinois. Our program year runs from July 1 to June 30, so it doesn't necessarily align with the other annual cycles that you're accustomed to following. But in anticipation of our program year start date approaching, in order to prepare for the program year, we typically bring this committee a resolution in the spring that does three things. Number one, it authorizes acceptance of our federal allocation. It authorizes various agreements with organizations and contractors that we partner with to deliver workforce services to the adults, dislocated workers, and youth populations in our 3-county workforce area, which includes Kane, DeKalb, and Kendall counties. And then finally, it authorizes the execution and submittal of various certifications, reports, and other documents that we are required to submit throughout the program year in order to comply with the standards that these dollars carry with them. You'll note in the resolution that we've identified the names of the subrecipient entities. We're a recipient of federal funds, and when we allocate that to other organizations, they're in essence considered subrecipients of ours. And those entities are listed in 3 tables. The first one contains entities that will help us deliver services to the adult and dislocated worker populations. The second table, which begins on page 2 of our resolution document, highlights the group of organizations that we work with to deliver services to the youth population. And then finally, the last table contains identifies a consortium of workforce development agencies that have formed and gotten together in order to run our one-stop employment center here in downtown Batavia. And our office is the sort of the managing partner or managing member of that consortium. So we're named specifically in that operator contract authorization. Finally, I do want to let you know that all of these actions have been reviewed and approved and authorized by our 3-county Workforce Development Board, which met actually Wednesday morning to review these action items and authorize us to undertake these actions on the board's behalf. So that gives you a summary of the resolution that's in front of you. At this time, we would like to ask that you send this on to the County Finance Committee for review and ultimately onto the county board. Any questions?
Madam Chair.
Mr. Ethman.
Yes, I just need help remembering what a MOU is.
MOU stands for a Memorandum of Understanding.
That's right, correct.
And
Thank
I
you.
believe that's referenced in the 3rd table.
Yes, it is.
And that's because, let me just give you a quick explanation. The one-stop is called a one-stop because it's considered a shared sort of front door that about 13, I believe, different agencies, including some state agencies, some community colleges, nonprofit agencies, that are all part of the public workforce development system. And the cost to support the one-stop job center is shared by those agencies. And that contract that you see there of $43,612.08 will, throughout the year, be billed to those various agencies who help support that effort.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mrs. Osa, I just have one quick question statement. I don't know which it is. A representative of one of our community colleges was telling me the other day that they're going to get a little more discriminative, I guess, on who they allow in some of these programs, because they said they're admitting students, but a lot of them are not completing it. And then, they're worried about funding because of that. Have you heard anything like that from anybody?
I have not, but I can look into that and get back to you.
Okay, I know.
Can I ask which college it was?
Wabansi.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess, and I think we all know this, getting our high school students and those right out of high school to actually commit to something long-term, it's just been a real struggle. That's just the easiest way to put it. So I was just curious if you guys have heard any rumblings, because I know when I was listening to the meeting Wednesday, there's a couple contracts that won't get renewed because of, lack of enrollment and different things like that. So I was just curious if you had any feedback on that.
Well, I can get back to you regarding that specific organization. I'll sort of look into that. But as a general feedback for you, let me just remind you that we do occasionally talk about how the populations that we serve under this program have barriers. That's kind of a nice way of saying it's hard to get them to complete the program,
Yes.
follow through, finish.
Yes.
That's a nice way to put it. But, we are dealing with disadvantaged groups of people that have various barriers that frankly make it difficult for them to get through a program, graduate, and succeed. So ultimately, our program is judged by the various performance measures that, not just the financial performance measures that Maria speaks to you about on a monthly basis, but other kinds of performance measures. I think we talked about this a couple of months ago, for example, it's such a long-term process that the state of Illinois is even looking at our clients' ability to retain employment in the second and fourth quarter of the year following completion of our program. So performance is a long view that is taken in judging our performance. And so, we do everything we can to help our clientele succeed, but it's a challenge.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Bates,
Ms. Bates?
Mr. Berger, have we identified those barriers and to people entering the program or completing it? And is there a way we can help with that?
Well, barriers I don't have a comprehensive list in front of me, but these are identified in the kind of intake information that our staff complete. They include language barriers, lack of transportation, childcare, different reasons that it might be difficult for someone to really participate in a program.
Okay, thanks. Are we looking into how we can possibly help with some of those issues?
No, we're not looking into that. We're doing that.
Okay.
We do.
Let me
That's
join
part
in
of
if you
what
don't
we
mind.
do.
Yeah, that's why a lot of these people have what I call wraparound services, where if they're placing a
good.
client and the client has transportation issues, they'll give them bus passes, or there's money in these grants for things like that, or even mental health things,
Okay.
and a lot of hand-holding and mentoring.
And we also
which is
work
fine.
with the broad array of social service agencies, public aid agencies, and sometimes it's just help getting them enrolled in what we call mainstream resources that are available that they might not be applying for.
Good. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, you guys are doing a great job with what I think is a very hard situation to deal with. So,
Thank
thank
you.
you.
It's an ongoing challenge.
Yeah. If there's no other questions, I think we can do the resolution. No, we have to move it in.
I'll make the motion to move it forward.
8 seconds.
Ford moves, Batesville second. This is a resolution authorizing agreements for Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act and the Trade Adjustment Act programs for program year 2023. If there's no other questions, let's call the roll.
Bates,
Bates, yes.
Doherty,
Doherty, yes.
Ford,
Ford, yes.
Strathman,
Strathman, yes.
Young,
Young, yes.
Lewis,
Lewis, yes.
Allen,
Allen, aye.
passes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Very much. I think we'll leave the comments to the end, if that's okay with my co-chair. Okay, and then on to the Jobs Committee priorities.
Great. Good morning. Mark Van Kerkhoff, Director of Development and Community Services. Chris Toth is unable to join us this morning due to being ill. I'm sure he must be feeling pretty poorly to miss this meeting, especially today, because we finally are able to roll up our sleeves and get to work on things that this committee has been working on for several years, has been planning for, preparing for, budgeting for, and now we're ready to move ahead and actually get to work. And with some consultant contracts that are on your agenda today. But before we get to that, I just wanted to lay the groundwork a little bit as a reminder, especially for some of the newer board members. I'm and I didn't want to repeat what was presented at the February 28th Committee of the Whole, but that was really sort of the big unveiling for the Jobs Committee of what the three-pronged economic development strategy is this year, coming out of Jobs Committee, and it was for the entire county board. We had a number of our partners here speaking in support of what this committee has been planning for. So I just wanted to summarize those 3 points, but if anyone missed the Committee of the Whole meeting back in February, the presentation and the recording with comments from our supporting partners are all available, as well as I can reiterate any of those this morning. But generally, the three components of that are doing a strategic economic development plan for Kane County, which has never been done for the entire county, all of our communities, with the goal of proposing a economic development organization or economic development council. There's different names it can go under, but as a public-private partnership where most of the financial support and operation of this new organization would be supported by the private sector. Kane County is one of the few counties of any size in a four-state region that does not have an economic development organization doing economic development work on behalf of the county entirely, but that includes supporting that economic development activity within municipalities. And in Kane County, we have 2 major municipalities and then another 28 with various abilities and capacities to do economic development. So we kind of stand out in the Midwest as not having that. So that's
not a prize we want to win.
No.
It's not a
But
distinction that we want to.
No, that's correct. So that's why this committee has been working so hard the last couple of years to move towards that. And the other third part of the third pillar, so to speak, is something that's been growing up in the region, and that is a regional partnership, the Chicagoland, Greater Chicagoland Economic Partnership, which also was part of that Committee of the Whole presentation. The county board approved its buy-in on our pro rata share for the partnership, and we're very excited to get that going. I'll explain in terms of how these contracts tie into getting the most out of our money is the best way to put it with that. So those are the 3 pillars. I wanted to also go over, because money is important, how we've been planning for this financially to be able to undertake this effort. Number one, the county board has set aside money in Fund 400 through the internal riverboat grant process. The Grand Victoria Riverboat funds, as you're aware, are to be used for education, environment, or economic development. So this is one of the three primary uses for that fund, Fund 400. We were building up and proposing internally funds as if we were going to do these efforts entirely using our own economic development funds. The good news is two other things came along. Number one, the state of Illinois issued an RFP last year, just a little over a year ago, for what they call their RISE planning grant for economic development to help communities plan. So Chris Toth and I submitted an application last year, and that was due in May. And we found in September of last year that we were awarded the maximum amount that was allocated under any one community under the program of $150,000 to do our economic development strategic plan. So that was great news because we were planning to pay for it, and now we don't have to pay for it.
Yay.
Because the state is taking care of that for us. So that was really good news. The other thing we had budgeted for, along with doing that strategic plan, was to bring on an economic development strategic advisor to work with Chris Toth and I, to work with the Jobs Committee, the county board chairman, to be that strategic voice of here's an opportunity. Yes, you should do this. Yes, you should invest in this. Yes, you should go this way, to give us guidance in this whole process. I'll get more into some of the other details because of his involvement with the strategic plan, and then also to get the most out of our money with GSEP. And then the other funding source that we're working with now is the ARPA funds. We submitted actually, as you saw in presentations here before the committee, 5 different projects that we submitted to the ARPA committee for funding. One of those projects is specifically for the economic development strategic plan and standing up a economic development organization for the county. So we're continuing to work with them on what actual expenditures can be reimbursed from the ARPA funds back into Fund 400. So it's sort of an operating, to reimburse that to the maximum extent possible for all these projects. So those are the 3 pillars, the 3 funding sources, and we have before you a couple of resolutions to get to work. So the first one is a contract authorizing a contract with RW Ventures LLC for consulting services to create the strategic economic development plan for Kane County. I do want to thank Chris Toth as well as our purchasing team for putting together a great RFP that went out. We had 5 or 6 very robust submittals for that. We did review those and score those internally with our team, and our recommendation to the county board is to go with RW Ventures for this strategic plan. You do have in your packet their response to the RFP and qualifications, as well as the draft contract to move ahead with them. To that, all of their costs would be reimbursed by the state grant. So that's covered with that. Just a couple of highlights in terms of why their proposal rose above the others. One is they have a history of very successful work in the region. They were instrumental in developing the plan and creation of what's now the Chicagoland Food and Beverage Network, which also benefits our local economy out here. They most recently worked on the Southland Development Strategic Plan and standing up their new economic development organization. They've done work in other parts of the country similarly. And also part of their consulting team, which you see listed in the proposal, includes some of the team members who were really the brains and strategic advisors behind putting together our regional organization. So they already understand how the regional organization is going to function, so that in making recommendations for our own economic development organization, it will plug in seamlessly. And part of the benefits of having what we're already buying into with the regional organization is that our new countywide organization will not need to duplicate some of those functions, which would be a big cost savings to that organization. So they also have a strong commitment to really looking at all sectors of the economy and looking at opportunities for raising all boats, as you say. They'll be looking at some non-traditional sectors of our economy that don't just show up with some of the major traded sectors. So we're really excited.
Like what? Excuse me. Non-traditional, what are non-traditional?
Entrepreneurship, small business. We have a large Hispanic population, as you know, so there's a number of factors that go into our local economy and really help our communities
Okay,
be
thank you.
sustainable and thrive. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions about RW Ventures or their proposal or the strategic plan.
Let's get the proposal on the table, and then if anybody has any questions, so I need a motion.
Bates
A second.
moves.
Bates moves. Strathman seconds. Okay, any questions?
I have a question.
Madam Bates?
To help me understand what we're doing here, I am fairly familiar with Invest Aurora because I live in Aurora, and I know that they are a nonprofit. Is this going to be a similar when we get our what was it? The second pillar? The Economic Development Council, will that be like Invest Aurora, a nonprofit and not a governmental agency? Is that what
Correct.
we're
Yeah,
picturing?
that's what we're anticipating in our own research in terms of how these organizations are organized.
Okay.
There are a couple different nonprofit models,
Mhm.
and that's where we'd be looking for them to recommend the best.
Okay,
But
I just want to understand.
yeah, but that's the general
All right.
direction that we're headed.
I think that works very well. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I think that the whole thing behind this strategic plan is for them to lay out these options for us.
Okay.
And then as a board, in a county, we will say, yes, we want to go this way, we want to go that way. But yeah, definitely. Also, what I liked about their proposal, RW, was the fact that they did include the fact that we have a very diverse population. I saw in one of these presentations, it said the average income in St. Charles is like 150,000. The income in Aurora can go down as low as 28. And so this plan has to be broad enough to cover all the multitude of people and opportunities that's in this county. And it's not going to be a one size fit all areas. So I like the fact that they were well aware of how diverse our county is. So I think this appears to be an excellent company to lead us down this initiative.
Thank you.
Okay, if there's no other questions.
Madam
let's-
Chair Ford,
Okay, Mr. Ford?
how you doing? I'm pretty excited about this, but one thing I want to, once we get this consultant on board, I really think we need to have some type of either roundtable or some type of discussion to really look at things that we have in place that we've been working on or involved in that can also be added to our efforts towards the economic development planning. And the reason why I bring that up is there's a lot of components out there. We have a river. We have organizations that we're attached to that we support that have the river in their interests. From our funding from the Grand Victoria, there's organizations that look at doing training that we're attached to. That's in technology. That's very important for economic development. And then we need to have them help us look into our fiber and how we can use that along with the process. And Mavis bring up a good point about Invest Aurora, because we got a good handful of partners we can tie into, and some of them we don't even know much about what they do. That can all be a part of this. This could be a pretty good side consortium on applying for grants for Kane County with this.
Yeah, so Lewis here, and then Mark can jump in. But I think the whole reason that we are putting all this time, painstaking time into coming up with this strategic plan is that we need to really understand what our needs are, and also all these other organizations are going to have to become a part of this. So I think they're going to have their work cut out for them, for sure. And then I think that once the plan comes out, just like when we did the 2040 plan, or now as we're doing our building plan, that these will be like the key frameworks for how we're going to move forward and run our county.
Yeah, Mark Van Kerkhoff. I'll just add that a big part of their initial step will be doing key interviews with partners and people and board members. So if you have any, key partners that you want to recommend that we include on that list, we're happy to pass that along. Assuming that this contract moves along and gets approved at the county board at their June next meeting, we would anticipate having them here at our June Jobs Committee meeting, as well as hosting a roundtable event afterwards, so that our partners can all be introduced and to the process and to the plan, and kick it off with a big good start. But a lot of what they will be doing is assessing what they call our economic development assets, our companies, how the economy is actually working, as well as networking with those existing partners that all have a shared interest.
Okay, no other questions? Let's call it.
Bates,
Bates, yes.
Doherty,
Doherty, yes.
Ford,
Ford, yes.
Strathman,
Strathman, yes.
Young. Mr. Young. Lewis,
Lewis, yes.
Ellen,
Ellen, aye.
passes.
Okay, that was interesting. Now we have our other resolution and a guest.
Yes, we do. I'm happy to introduce John Grueling. And I will mention again, I want to thank Chris Toth and our purchasing team. They put simultaneously, we did an RFQ for an economic development advisor. Along the way, we had 2 responses to that, and we're very excited to have selected John Grueling. In order to get him going right away, actually, working with purchasing under my authority as development director, entered into a short-term contract with him within the limits allowed for directors to get started right away. And he's already been immensely helpful this month. We've had 3 or 4 opportunities that he's given us key strategic insight into, and we're excited to be working with him. Just a few things about John in terms of introduction. John has been an economic development practitioner for over 45 years, serving in local, county, regional, and state economic development organizations. He's currently the owner of JEG 360 Economic Development Consulting Firm he founded after serving as president and CEO of the Will County Center for Economic Development. That's their version of a independent economic development organization. He specializes in community economic development, strategic planning, economic development policy practices, infrastructure development, community branding and marketing, and government affairs. What's unique with him is the ability to bring diverse viewpoints to the table and develop partnerships across public and private sectors. John more recently was at the helm during recruitment of the Lion Electric Company to Joliet. I think you may be familiar with that. That was big news to the region, creating electric vehicle manufacturing to the region. He's also been a key part working with the other counties in the region for developing the regional economic development effort that we all just signed on to. Also, just somewhat uniquely in terms of his experience outside of the region, he served as executive director of the Southeast Denver Douglas County Economic Development Council, which was a private multi-county development corporation in Metro Denver. So he's got familiar with how things work in other regions as well as here. I personally had a lot of exposure to working with John due to my work with the regional group. He's highly respected across the board in the region. And due to his leaving the Will County organization and going off on his own consulting, we have the opportunity to benefit from his experience. I don't know if you'd like to have John say a few words now, or do you want me to, I can talk a little bit more specifically about what he'd be doing, but John is available to say a few words about himself or to answer any questions that you have.
Why don't we introduce John so everybody gets to meet him?
Sure.
And then we can do any specific questions after that. You have to teach him how to use our mic.
I'm told I have to speak right into it.
Wow, you are amazing. You're hired.
Oh, thank you.
First person.
Well,
that's
with
got
that,
it.
I don't need to say anything.
Yeah.
First of all, I want to thank the committee for having me here this morning, and more importantly, having the county consider bringing me on for economic development advisory services. I'm very passionate about this work. It's all I've ever done. As my father used to tell me, he was a banker. And when I told him I was an economic developer working with communities to do things, he says, that sounds really mushy. But the reality was this activity is so crucial for communities and counties and regions. Economic development is a legacy activity. What you do today in the next few years will impact Kane County for the next 25, 30, 50 years. And I think just to be a part of that, looking at creating a new economic development organization in Kane County really is exciting to me. I would be honored to take up this work, and certainly I'm available to answer any questions you may have. So thanks again.
Alan, we have struggled with this for years. We've had a couple of people who came in from other communities and tried to wrap their arms around our issues and weren't able to. Can you just say one or two steps on how you start herding the cats and trying to bring us into an umbrella where we can actually do some good for our area?
Sure. That's a very good question. First of all, herding cats is definitely part of the work, but building consensus is probably one of the most important things. And through the work that the RJW Ventures will be doing, we'll give the community an opportunity early on to give some input. But quite frankly, a plan is a plan, and the way you implement the plan is probably much more important. And getting leadership on the same page is first and foremost something that has to be done early and often. What I've discovered in my work in various locations, most people, number one, understand successful community economic development. What they don't understand is what role they play in successful economic development. Our job as a county, as an EDO, economic development organization, as an advisor, is to bring them along and to explain to them their opinion counts and why what they have to say is a real opportunity to influence how things are going to move forward. At the end of the day, though, you need a collaborative product. Not everybody's always going to agree with each other. But everybody has to put the county's best interest first. And that's not always easy. You all on the county board know that. But I think the economic development effort and the potential for great success here should be a big part of the story as we go out and seek assistance.
Thank you.
Ms. Bates?
So I'm a little mixed up now what the consultant's going to do and what you're going to do, but it'll sort itself out. I'll understand when I'm older. Will we be having a community survey or listening sessions?
Oh, absolutely. Either as part of the strategic planning process, which certainly that will take place. But if the county decides to go ahead and look at creating a public-private partnership, a private not-for-profit economic development organization. We really have to spend a lot of time going out and talking to the communities, their leaders. Somebody mentioned earlier, there's other entities that are already in the economic development business in Kane County. We really have to work with them early on and help them understand why this is a gain for them and not something that we're trying to take away.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Okay.
I'd be happy to cover what tasks that John Grulin would be doing for us
If
and
you could kind
answer
of
any
explain
questions
the
about
difference
that.
Between the strategic plan and then John actually
Everybody's.
working, you know?
Yeah, so the two buckets, the strategic plan is a process and a deliverable in terms of the strategic plan.
Okay.
That's what we pitched to the state for the RISE grant. That's what they're funding. It's a very concise package for that, so that we'll have a strategic plan to use for that development of the agency. Knowing that, the reasons we did an RFP for the plan and RFQ for an advisor is we rightfully thought and was correct that the RFP for doing the plan did attract regional and national firms to look at it, to do that planning process and deliverable for the plan. Knowing that in advance, we felt like we needed someone locally to serve as strategic advisor. And I'll go through that task, but we figured we really need someone who was local, available, and knowledgeable of Kane County, the region, you know, that type of familiarity. So we are very pleased RW Ventures is regional out of Chicago. Their consultants that are part of the team are national. So we still feel it's important to have a local available sort of single, you know, advisor for us. So I'm going to go through, these are out of the contract, but I'll run through them and happy to answer any questions. So one, John will be serving as economic development advisor to the county board chairman, and myself as director of development and community services. Those three components are so that as we get opportunities or have questions about anything related to, you know, our three pillar efforts, we've got a go-to guy, a go-to person to be able to say, is this wise? Is this good? Some of those examples are, for example, we have, you know, opportunity to go to the state economic development organization, statewide association. They have a 2-day conference coming up. Because of our partnership in the region, we're getting opportunities sent our way for us to potentially participate in. So those are the kind of things where we could look to John to say, is this a good use of our time, a good use of potential funds if there's something that's included in it, and investment with that. Chris Toth and I have learned a lot in the last decade, getting involved in the economic development issues. One of the things that we've learned is that we don't know what we don't know. So having someone who's been at it this for this many years on our team, you know, is really, really helpful. Number two, he'll be working with our selected consultant in development of the strategic economic development plan and recommendations on our behalf. Is sort of our internal advisor as part of the team with you as the county board, with Chris Toth and I. He just gives that extra lens of, have you thought about this? Have you looked at that? You know, that kind of thing. Probably number three emerged, you know, more recently with our partnership investment with the Greater Chicagoland Economic Development Partnership, is we're paying into that. We need to be able to take advantage of it. So we're also getting opportunities. We're going to be involved in leads that are generated in potentially multi-county work to go after, respond to, you know, a corporation or site selection that might be happening. Chris and I are not, you know, familiar with how that works. John is, so that could be a benefit. not just to you directly as the county board, but to our individual municipalities, especially ones who might be potentially at play for that type of a coordinated response, but don't have the resources or someone on their team who can help coordinate with that. So, and it's sort of a key stepping stone. Once we have an EDO launched and they have staff that would be doing that coordination work, like a Choose DuPage, like Lake County Partners, like World Business Chicago, then the need for a consultant, goes away, because then that would be internal staff to that EDO once it's launched in a year and a half. That would become a role that the EDO would play. So if you think of this as being sort of a interim stepping stone to make sure we take advantage of our investment with the regional partnership. Then number 4, helping providing input for formation and launch of a public-private partnership. John has a lot of experience with several such partnerships, including the development and improvements he made to Will County, what he learned there working with, again, they have a couple of Joliet, major municipality, and then they have a lot of smaller communities that they refer to as investors. So, has some experience in engaging, multiple numbers and sizes of municipalities. And then finally, number 5, another area where Chris Toth and I just are not adverse in, and that is really how to identify and recruit the right mix of community and business leaders to get early buy-in for participation in leadership and vision, but also financial buy-in to support this new public-private organization. Many models work on a 20% public, 80% private financial modeling. So in order to be successful in getting this going, we're going to need to identify those business leaders, work with myself and board members and Madam Chairman on making some of those individual visits to meet with these high-level folks and get them invested in the process. So, and then beyond number 5, there might be things that we didn't know to ask for that John's going to say, here's some other things that I bring value that will help us in the process. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
By the way, that is page 87 in the packet.
I'm looking as fast as
It's
I
page
can.
87.
Thank you.
So you didn't have to write it all down.
Well, what I'm looking for is, how do you spell your name?
Ruling?
Yes.
G-R-E-U-L-I-N-G.
E-U-L-I-N-G, John.
That's correct.
Okay.
And that's J-O-H-N.
Nice to meet you. Mavis
Yes.
Bates.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
I have a quick question that's involved but not involved. We're going to make sure that when we develop this plan and with John, that we really put a big emphasis on the workforce housing, because we know that that's a big problem in Kane right now. Yes?
Mhm.
Okay.
Mhm.
It was a kind of a rhetorical question.
Yeah, we're fairly, I mean,
Not a question.
we don't like to, preempt what a plan might say, but I think that's one of the ones that has been at the top of other plans recently done in the region. We expect it will be for us also. And I think that should be help really coalesce our communities, that it's not just a housing issue, it's an economic development and sustainability
Right.
issue.
'Cause
Mhm.
that's what I see as one of the big things is up and down the valley, like, especially Roaring Elgin, we're so struggling with housing. And it takes so long to get housing in. And like, we just did a we just, did the shovel grounds Wednesday for a project, but it's all senior. And so we've got to really come up with, I think, some creative ideas on how we're going to get, housing now for people. So I just want to make sure that that's included in there, which I'm sure it was. And sustainability on all these.
Sustainability.
Yes.
I want to make sure we're working in
Yeah, we need
partnership.
to talk about the Aurora project because I had not seen any slides on that, but
Mhm.
all right. Is there any other questions? Okay, I don't see any. So, have we did we motion this? Okay. We need a motion and a
It
second
moves.
for the resolution.
Bates moves.
Seconds.
Thank you, clerk.
Let's take our vote.
Bates,
Bates, yes.
Doherty,
Doherty, yes.
Ford,
Ford, yes.
Strathman,
Strathman, yes.
Young, Lewis,
Lewis, yes.
Allen,
Allen, I.
passes.
Okay, awesome. Nice job of explaining all that.
Oh,
Taking the
thank you.
time
Thanks
and
for,
Giving us the history and
I
everything.
have a feeling you were ready for my question. ahead of time.
well, we've been,
5-point answer to an
I
unexpected
think,
question.
I think Chris and I both, dream this at night. So it's, it's embedded.
So exciting.
What we've been working on. So I was excited to really get going on this. The other updates will be a bit shorter for you. So the ARPA project updates is just nothing specific other than we're continuing to work with the ARPA committee and the ARPA team with the transition on moving those 5 projects forward. Particularly now that we're starting to going to begin spending some money, look at getting those reimbursed back to Fund 400 as appropriate, which would include the money we'll be paying for John's consulting services. That his invoices are going to be detailed. We're going to be running those with our ARPA team, and anything that would fall under that ARPA eligibility would be refunded to Fund 400. So those are those updates generally, unless you have any questions with that.
Nope, go ahead.
Okay. Greater Chicagoland Economic Partnership. We're just almost overwhelmed with the opportunities that are flowing out of that relationship. They have, World Business Chicago has hired their full-time staff person who's the liaison with the other partners, Chris Chaidez, and he's already reached out and is very active. We continue to get regionally lead opportunities and reporting on those as well. And then opportunities to attend events that in the past, if World Business Chicago was hosting those international and big summits, we didn't know about them or we weren't invited, and now we are. We could almost do that full time. So that's where we'll bring some focus to what things are really going to be strategic for us to be involved with. So that's the update on the partnership.
Anything on the Fabulous Fox?
Yes, very exciting. In fact, to get you prepped up for next month, we hope to have some more contracts for you to be approving. With the Fabulous Fox Water Trail Initiative, I had updated you that back in September and then again in December, staff applied for 2 grants from DCO. One was called the Tourism Attraction and Festival Grant Program, and we applied for funds that would help with our improving infrastructure on the Fabulous Fox Water Trail. That would be for improving existing and installing new launch site locations that would be close to things that would be have economic development strategic value, and other improvements like signage, lockers, lockups for kayaks, things that would make the Fox River that much more usable. So, thankfully the county board last year, as part of that first application, had committed ARPA funds for that project as our match. And as a result of that, we were awarded $270,000 from the state for this project. So the next steps in that are to do an RFQ for a engineering planning consultant to work with us. We're going to get the word out to our municipalities, park districts, forest preserve, let them know we're embarking on this plan for them to submit locations that we would have our consultant evaluate. We'd work on a scoring type system where we'd evaluate feasibility from a construction and cost standpoint, but also its impact for really enhancing the trail and enhancing the economic development opportunities in the vicinity. And then once those sites are selected, then we'd actually go out, do the engineering, and build them, which is really exciting.
Is this for like kayak put-ins or parks along the trail or?
Yes, this would be for locations that could use enhancement. I mean, a really good example is the Fox Valley Park District site where when we did the tour a couple of falls
Illinois
ago,
Avenue.
we launched, from an embankment. It's not really a launch. So that'd be a good example of a site that could be a new,
I'm
enhanced
waiting for
site.
the magic word. Porta potties. Or composting.
Yeah,
toilets.
those are also, the type of amenities. So we'll be working with the different partners on what amenities might be appropriate for that. And the idea would be to use the funds to make the improvements and then turn over the maintenance and ownership and everything of those facilities to the
I want a
park
Mavis
districts.
Bates honorary porta potty on the River Trail someday.
Don't do that when you die.
I may put the plaque on there myself.
Madam Chair, Ford.
Gary Doherty has a question. Gary, go ahead.
Yeah, we kind of blew by it, but the Greater Chicagoland Economic Partnership, how will John be interacting with that? I mean, I thought that was going to be the economic development arm. Is that going to, is he going to work in conjunction with that? Could you help me with that?
Yes, he's going to be for Kane County to take advantage of our investment. It does take some staff time, myself, Chris Toth, and we're going to be adding John to the mix to how to do that strategically. So that we can take advantage. And I'm glad you asked the question because I failed to mention that John's role will be a bit of a two-way street. So as Chris and I in Kane County, we receive lead opportunities and things that might happen. John will help Chris and I evaluate those and figure out, how can we best disseminate the information and engage our municipalities. And then likewise, we're going to use John as a bridge, offering with our municipalities. If, in order to access the resources that we're paying for everybody from World Business Chicago, their research center, our municipalities still may be approached by a company who either wants to relocate or maybe it's a company that they want to retain, but they don't have the internal capacity to show that company the research data and information that would help them make a decision to stay in Gilbert's, to stay in St. Charles, as opposed to relocating to other parts of the country. So John will be a strategic part of us using our partnership to the maximum extent.
Thank you.
That answers your question.
Oh, yeah. I mean, like I said, we went round and round about the Chicago partnership, and I just wanted to make sure that this was all meshing properly.
Yeah, it all gets so intertwined after a while. And
Yeah.
because we do have a small staff, we need to take advantage of some outside expertise. I kind of look at him like John is kind of our mentor on some of this stuff too, because he's done the work for sure. So,
Right.
but thanks for asking
Thank
the
you.
question because it does get muddied. Thank you. All right, I think, is there anything?
We will either have release the RFP or possibly have someone RFP and someone selected. But either in June or July, we'll be moving ahead with a consultant to do that work for that grant. We'll also be having a resolution coming through formally accepting the grant and authorizing Madam Chairman to sign the grant agreement as that gets developed. But we're very excited about that. And then more recently, we learned that our second grant application, which was for a DCO tourism and travel grant program, very similar name. This is for marketing, and most communities that receive this annual grant are for festivals and marketing and things specific to their community. We applied for a grant to market Kane County's section of the Fabulous Fox Water Trail, and we're very pleased because earlier in 2022, a number of you participated in this, but we did a strategic marketing planning exercise with all of our partners along the Fabulous Fox Water Trail to look at what are the assets and how do people perceive it? What are some of the barriers, misperceptions that people have of the water trail? How do we engage folks? And we had gone through a RFP process and selected a GMCI Creative out of Elgin to do that strategic marketing plan, which they completed in the fall, which was great timing because when this grant opportunity became available, Kim Gilmore with GMCI was a primary author, writer of the grant using that strategic marketing plan that we developed and myself and submitted to actually be able to implement, to do the marketing that was developed in the strategic plan. And we're very pleased that we were awarded the maximum amount of $100,000 for that, which requires, this one does require $100,000 match from the county, which we hope to spend again out of ARPA funds to use for the match to actually implement that. So that'll also be coming through as a contract for GMCI for doing the actual implementation of the marketing plan.
Madam Chair, just a quick question, just, yeah, thank you. So that we have two grants for the Fox River Trail. One was one for 270 and we're matching with the ARPA money. Was it 270 was the amount or two?
No, in that case, the county board had under the ARPA projects allocated $1.2 million for marketing and for infrastructure. So the match for both of these grants will come out of that $1.2 million from ARPA funds.
And the first match for the first then is 270?
Yeah, technically it's 270, but the county board said we put $1 million into the project. So I think that really helped.
And $100,000 for, yeah.
So, Madam's chairs. So the 1.2 million will be part of this engineering and the development of fixing
Yes.
up. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yes, that's correct.
Madam Chair Ford.
Ford?
Yeah, thank you. Somewhere along the line, I'm hoping that we could get a real canoe ship in Aurora or help get the dam removed or help them with some type of solution with their part. Right now, it's never been safe from the first day it was built.
No, it's a killer.
Yeah, you're absolutely correct on that.
Thank you, Mr. Ford, for reminding us of that.
All right, anything else?
No, that's all I have unless there's any questions.
What are you gonna do with your?
Other than to thank Chris, who's not here, for all his dedicated work on this. I told him that you would miss his enthusiasm. So
Yes, yeah.
yes, I have, and hopefully he will be back with us real soon.
Yeah, I'm sad that he's not here in person to help you deliver this news because he's been very excited about it. And also, I want to also, purchasing has done a great job. The things that we've been throwing at them lately. It's like every time we turn around, purchasing's been this and that. So,
10 minutes.
yeah, good job by all of them.
Done with this one.
I have no new business unless anybody else does.
Could I just take a?
Yes.
This is Alan. I just want to, we get riverboat money from one of our riverboats, and that's the Elgin Grand Victoria Casino. And they wanted to put that facility in so much they were willing to spread the largesse, and we are still receiving some of it. And their stipulation was that they would like to have that money go towards environmental issues, education issues, and economic development issues, which we all refer to as the 3 E's. And because there was some additional language in the contract that said gambling sometimes brings problems as well as largesse. So if you want to take some of your money and put it towards entities that will address people with gambling addictions or family problems and so on, then that's fine. That's a good use of the money too. We have strayed from that The county tends to hold on to 2/3 of the money for use for our own programs. And half of that money goes into programs that we should probably fund out of the general fund. If those programs are valid and valuable, then we should plan to support them, fund them, and not wait for manna from heaven to show up to cover those things. The manna from heaven is supposed to be directed at environmental stuff, education stuff, and environmental and economic development stuff. And so when we have floundered for such a long time because we take a little bit of money and throw it at economic development. Now, thanks to Mark and your efforts, we have some extra money so that we can actually come up with a solution finally. We can have a roadmap. We can have an idea of how we're going to do this, and then how to direct resources. And especially at the beginning when we're trying to figure this out, some of those resources should be riverboat money. And I'm just going to keep banging that drum because we have projects that we need to do, and that's exactly what this money is for. And we need to be careful that it doesn't get siphoned off to other things. For a long time, drug court got about $500,000 from Riverboat every year to fund drug court. And that was so important, and we wanted to make that work. So we put that money in that direction. But we also said to drug court, you don't know if this money is going to continue. Chances are, if people stop gambling, that money won't be there. So you need to find other sources. And so for the last several years, drug court has not come in and asked for any money from the Riverboat at all because they went and found the money that they needed or had it worked into their budget. So let's try and use this money in the best way that we can, in the way that it was intended, and make it fly. Oh, thanks for letting me vent.
There you go. Well, it's true. All right. Any other comments by anybody? No
I'm
public-
sorry, Doherty. I wanted to thank Ms. Allen for the comments. I mean, I'm new, so I didn't know a lot of that background stuff, and I really appreciate making me more aware of what's happening, and make sure that I can be a better steward of our money.
You're a darling, and I'm happy to talk at length. And there are other people who know more than I do. So we'll get you all the information that you want. Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay. If there's nothing else, we need a motion and a second to place the reports on file.
Dave Luce,
Doherty, second.
Okay. Call the roll.
Bates,
yes.
Doherty,
Doherty, yes.
Ford, Strathman,
Strathman, yes.
Young, Lewis,
Lewis, yes.
Allen,
Ellen, I.
approved.
Okay. No need for executive session. And on behalf of Mr. Kenyon, could somebody make a motion to adjourn?
I will make a motion to adjourn.
Doherty, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, no nays. Have a wonderful weekend and thank you all for